Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, Ugandan opposition leader Bobi Wine tells France24 that he and his wife remain surrounded by the military at home. His party offices are raided after President Yoweri Museveni is named the winner of last week's controversial election. Also, around 140 people are killed and tens of thousands forced from their homes in Sudan's troubled Darfur region in just a few days. There had been hopes that a peace deal signed last October would calm ethnic clashes. And the gentle giant's taking a load off. The world's largest fish, the whale shark, sometimes chooses to skip seasonal migration and hang out off the Tanzanian coast. To be honest, who wouldn't? But first, Ugandan opposition leader Bobi Wine says that he fears for his life since losing last week's presidential election. President Yoweri Museveni faces his sixth term in office after being declared the winner over the weekend. An internet shutdown brought in on the eve of the vote was lifted on Monday, although social media access remains patchy. The US and UK have called for investigations into allegations of fraud. Wine has said that his party leaders are on the run and told France24 on Monday that he and his wife are under house arrest, surrounded by the military.
400 of them have surrounded our house. We are not allowed to leave. Nobody is allowed to leave or to come in. We have run out of food, but my wife was assaulted yesterday when she was trying to go to the garden to pick food. My lawyers are blocked from accessing me, and my party officials also are not allowed to come and access me. And also all journalists are blocked from coming to see me. So we are isolated, myself and my wife. We are in danger because we don't know the intention of these soldiers. None of them is talking to us. They beat my security guard so bad, and just because he was asking them what they want, they could not identify themselves. Some of them are in military uniform, while others are in plain clothes but are having automatic assault rifles. I'm afraid for my life. I'm afraid for my wife's life, but we must keep doing. We must keep going, because what we are doing is moral and it is just. The government is doing it so that the world is kept in the dark about Uganda. General Museveni does not want the world to see the violence that is happening in Uganda. Just yesterday, 4 people were shot dead in a city called Masaka, and they are keeping me and my wife under house arrest because they don't want us to address the nation on the way forward. They don't want us to talk to the people.
Well, France24 will be hearing from the Ugandan government, hopefully over the coming days. Now, that election was preceded by an electoral campaign that was marked by a deadly crackdown on Wine's supporters. Opposition headquarters were raided on Monday as they pulled together a legal challenge to Museveni's victory. The NUP is worried that security forces are after alleged evidence of fraud. The president has claimed the poll is, I quote, the most cheating-free in Ugandan history. Shirley Sitbin has more.
Uganda's National Unity Platform opposition party headquarters were surrounded by soldiers on Monday, a day after it said it had proof last week's elections were rigged and it planned to challenge results in court. Bobi Wine, the opposition's candidate to the presidency, who has been trapped in his home surrounded by troops, said authorities were cracking down on his party.
Our party office has been raided by the military and has been cordoned off. So I've not heard from my party leadership as yet, but I am aware that everybody is being pursued and everybody is on the run.
Outside Wine's home on Freedom Drive, security forces blocked everyone from reaching the political leader, including his lawyers.
So your instructions are that he's not meeting lawyers? That's what, you're not supposed to meet anyone.
Police say the opposition's headquarters have been cordoned off, but only for security reasons, accusing the opposition of not only rejecting the election's results, but also calling for violent riots. President Yoweri Museveni in power since 1986, officially won the vote with 58%, and his party won a majority of seats in parliament. They deny the vote was rigged. The campaign was marked by a violent crackdown on opposition supporters and a complete shutdown of the internet, which was only brought back up on Monday.
Well, days of ethnic clashes in Sudan's Darfur region saw around 140 people killed between Saturday and Monday evening. The violence forced tens of thousands from their home over the weekend. The violence has erupted just months after the signing of a peace deal between rebels and the government. Regional correspondent Mukelwa Shachwayu tells us more.
The killing of 129 people in Darfur occurred during two separate incidents over the weekend. Saturday's violence was sparked by an incident between two individuals from opposing tribes. That turned violent and deadly. Then tribesmen from the two sides gathered and fighting began. Armed militia then took advantage of this and attacked a displacement camp in Al-Ganaina, forcing people there to flee. Despite the curfew, fighting continued on Sunday. Such incidents have occurred in Darfur since conflict broke out in 2003 when the government of then-President Omar al-Bashir armed militia to help crush a revolt. The main conflict has subsided over the years, but ethnic and tribal clashes still flare up periodically, largely pitting nomadic Arab pastoralists against settled farmers from non-Arabic ethnic groups. Brokering lasting peace there and in other parts of Sudan has been one of the main challenges facing the authorities since the overthrow of Bashir in 2019. Violence has increased in Darfur in recent months, and this incident happened just 2 weeks after the UN peacekeepers stopped patrolling the region ahead of a full withdrawal. The decision to withdraw the UN peacekeepers was made at the end of last year following a unanimous adoption of a Security Council resolution and in what was seen as progress made by the transitional government of Sudan in addressing the conflict in Darfur. The Central Committee of Sudan Doctors has reported that the situation in the region is relatively calm now, but they are in need of blood donations as they are treating scores of injured people, including children.
Now, 2 UN peacekeepers were killed in Central African Republic not long after the Constitutional Court confirmed the re-election of President Faustin-Archange Touadéra in last month's vote. The MINUSCA mission has blamed the attack on armed rebels behind an attempted coup that happened before the vote that returned Touadéra to office. 2/3 of the country is currently controlled by insurgent groups. Many in the capital, Bangui, live in fear of a return of violence. Our correspondents tell us more.
The 5th arrondissement in the heart of central Bangui. Here, deserted homes and burnt houses are a near constant reminder of decades of violence. As if frozen in time, they were never rebuilt.
There was life here. People got along. Muslims and Christians lived in harmony and peace. But in 2013, the crisis threw everyone off course. Many left. Their houses had been destroyed. It was really sad.
The last civil war in 2013 killed thousands, many of them from the capital. In the Castor neighborhood where Cedric lives, there's a renewed fear of chaos following this month's rebel attacks. Gunfire rang out once again in the streets, and with it the trauma of the past resurfaced.
We lost so much. We lost many of our parents, people who were important to us. That's why we don't want that anymore in our country.
Here, talk of the January 13th violence is everywhere, as are fears and anger.
If the people were listened to, we wouldn't have gotten to this point. The children that disappear, that die, they're everyone's children. So those that take up arms shouldn't only pay attention to politicians. They have to look at the people who are suffering. It's not normal.
Like Cedric, many of Bangui's youth are fed up with the violence and the conflicts. To quell the unrest, the government has temporarily banned motor scooter taxis in the city and set up a nightly curfew from 6 p.m. to 5 in the morning. A safety measure that's added additional angst for what it could do to the already struggling economy.
Well, after 10 months out of class, school kids in Ghana returned on Monday as the country tries to mitigate some of the disruption to education caused by the pandemic over the last year. Schools were closed when a lockdown was first introduced back in March. The days of virtual study may now be over, but the country's infection rate is rising, and the government's warned that a partial lockdown could come back if numbers keep going up. And finally, whale sharks, the world's biggest fish, normally migrate thousands of kilometers across the ocean every year. The long-haul journey doesn't always appeal to the gentle giants, though. Some take a load off and skip the trip to instead hang out around Tanzania's Mafia Island. Shirley has more.
Space agencies may be planning missions to other planets, yet there is still much we don't know about species on Earth. Species like the whale shark. Those fish migrate thousands of kilometers across the ocean's hot waters, sometimes deep down, and we don't know their exact number or for how long they have existed. They have a nickname based on what we do know, gentle giants, because they're harmless to humans. In Mafia Island, Tanzania, those fish have brought some good business. They attract tourists.
You see the shadow there, down there. Sorry, go now, jump on the front of the guy. The guy is calling you.
As long as they remain cautious and don't harm the fish, tourists don't seem to bother much whale sharks, who can measure up to 20 meters long.
Oh, magical. Really good.
Residents believe they're fortunate to have whale sharks in their waters, but this comes with responsibilities. Children learn this in school. They need to protect the species. Whale sharks can't reproduce before the age of 20, which makes them vulnerable. They're endangered by fishing. They're sometimes injured by boats, and they suffer from pollution. Their global numbers have sharply declined in the past 2 decades. But at Mafia Island, NGOs say their numbers have gone up 80% in recent years. Some fish stay in Tanzania all year round, skipping the traditional migration across the world.
Beautiful creatures. Well, that is, though, all we have time for Eye on Africa. Thanks for joining us, and do so again if you can. Take care.
On December 15, 2020, the US Drug Agency authorized the distribution of a first vaccine against coronavirus. It was the start of Operation Warp Speed, the largest coordinated vaccination campaign in American history.
We're prepared and we're doing a great job with it, and it will go away. Just stay calm.
Do your job, Mr. President.
A political battle against the backdrop of a pandemic.
Ils ont fait peur à la population, alors que le travail qu'on a poursuivi était absolument scientifique, rigoureux, basé sur les données.
For Dr. Monsef Slawi, the operation can only be successful if it is led by scientists, planned by the military, and implemented by the best logisticians. Find out how America organized Operation Warp Speed in Reporters on France 24 and France24.com.